On the day we were scheduled to embark on our honeymoon, I was shocked when Terry handed me divorce papers. He told me he planned to take his entire family on what was supposed to be our romantic getaway and suggested that if I didn't agree with the arrangement, we could part ways. Although I was seething with anger internally, I calmly responded, "That's fine, but remember, I'm still my person." His surprised expression gave me a sense of victory. My name is Lauren, and I'm a 38-year-old who works in real estate. I find my job fulfilling and am grateful for the support of my colleagues. Despite my professional success, my personal life is quite simple. I don't have many hobbies and have never been in a relationship until recently. As I watched friends pair off and marry by their 30s, I couldn't help feeling left behind. To add to the pressure, I noticed younger colleagues frequently leaving our company, which always pained me. Then I met Terry through a mutual friend. He was 3 years my junior, with a comforting smile that always made me feel safe and valued. Terry was a man of few words, preferring to listen rather than dominate conversations. He respected my opinions, making me feel involved and important in decision-making, which was new to me given my lack of romantic experiences. I quickly grew fond of him, and our relationship blossomed. When the topic of marriage came up, Terry's simple agreement to proceed felt natural. Marriage meant making numerous decisions together, from planning the wedding and honeymoon to choosing our future home. It was supposed to be one of life's significant milestones, and I was eager to navigate it with him side by side. No matter what decision came our way, Terry consistently deferred to me, never sharing his thoughts but simply agreeing with whatever I suggested. This pattern started making Terry's personality seem less dependable to me, and I began to feel less satisfied with our relationship. Another growing concern was my interactions with my mother-in-law. Unlike Terry's easygoing nature, she was quite the opposite. She was assertive and rarely took my opinions into account. From our very first meeting, she made her expectations clear. "Lauren, once you're married, you'll leave your job to focus on the household, right? You're not getting any younger, and if you wait too long, you might not have children. Terry is working hard, so as his wife, you should dedicate yourself to the family." Her views were staunchly traditional, insisting that while the husband worked, the wife should manage the home. What she didn't know was that I actually earned more than Terry. He didn't mind this and had even shared this fact with his parents, but his mother disapproved, saying, "A woman who earns more than her husband isn't endearing. Besides, can you even manage household chores?" Her words were condescending as she doubted my ability to cook, do laundry, clean, and care for my husband's health. Despite her harsh judgments, I knew I was fully capable of handling household responsibilities, having lived independently for years. I was determined not to quit my job after marriage, wanting to prioritize my aspirations just as much as Terry's. However, when my mother-in-law criticized me, Terry remained silent, simply nodding in agreement with her. This passive response made me question whether I could rely on him as a lifelong partner. Part of me wondered if Terry's youth was a factor, that perhaps he would grow into a more assertive and supportive partner over time. Yet there was also a fear that if this marriage didn't work, I might never marry at all. My mind was caught in a tug of war between anxiety and hope, and despite these emotional conflicts, the clock was ticking. With so much planning left for the wedding, choosing a honeymoon destination, and organizing time off work, the list of tasks continued to expand, adding to my stress. The unease kept building as I balanced hectic days filled with both work commitments and wedding planning. One day, I brought up our honeymoon plans with Terry, noting that due to our work schedules, we could only take a long vacation soon. "Should we plan our honeymoon during this period?" I asked him. "Yeah, that sounds good to me," Terry replied. It was fortunate that both of us had similar downtimes at work, making it our best chance for an extended break. However, there was a snag with our wedding planning. The venue I had always dreamed of was so popular, it was booked solid for the next year. "What do you think about having the honeymoon before the wedding?" I proposed. I had read that some couples chose this route. "If we wait to have the wedding first, it could be another 3 years before we can take our trip." "If you're okay with it, Lauren, then I'm fine with it too," Terry said. While I was relieved Terry didn't object, his easy agreement made me wish he would express more of his thoughts. Although part of me appreciated the lack of opposition, I continued to move forward with our plans. Ultimately, we decided to spend our honeymoon in Europe. I was torn between choosing Florida, with its proximity and convenience, and Europe's rich culture. Eventually, I opted for Italy, enticed by the idea of strolling through beautiful streets and savoring exquisite food. I was also eager to explore local boutiques for stylish accessories and perhaps purchase some special tableware to celebrate the start of our new life together. After weighing various schedules and destinations, I finalized all the arrangements about a month before our trip. By then, my excitement was palpable. It was going to be my first trip overseas, and I couldn't wait to embark on this adventure with Terry, hoping it would bring us closer and perhaps encourage him to share more of himself in the future. The thrill of planning our European honeymoon completely captivated me. My days were filled with excitement as I busied myself selecting travel essentials and outlining our activities. This joy momentarily washed away any feelings of discontent I had towards Terry. However, just a week before our departure, Terry surprised me with an unexpected request, sparking my curiosity since he seldom asked for anything. Could it be something about our trip? Perhaps he found a new spot in Venice he wanted to explore. Eagerly, I asked him what was on his mind. Casually, Terry dropped a bombshell. "I want to go to Bing Taylor when we're in Venice. Mom really wants to see it." I was taken aback, bewildered by his words. "Your mother? Wait, what do you mean?" I struggled to keep up with this sudden shift in plans, but Terry acted as if it was all perfectly normal. "Well, since everyone else is going, we'll all be together during the trip, right?" "Everyone? What do you mean by everyone? It's our honeymoon, so obviously it should be just the two of us," I countered, but Terry continued, "My mom thinks it's normal for the whole family to come along." I was flustered. "Terry, I made reservations for just the two of us, and the deadline to book was a few days ago. Today is the last day to confirm. I booked for us alone. The whole family can't join now. If you think something can be worked out, you might want to talk to the travel agency." Before I could grasp the full implication of Terry's words, the intercom buzzed. On the screen, I saw my in-laws, bags in tow, completely disregarding my stunned expression as they entered our home. My mother-in-law's eyes gleamed with excitement as she exclaimed, "I thought I'd leave the luggage here since we're leaving soon." Terry chimed in supportively, "Just leave the luggage here," and began ushering them into the room without my consent. Panicking, I blurted out, "Wait a minute," as I tried to intercept him, desperate to regain some control over the spiraling situation. As I tried to process the sudden upheaval of our honeymoon plans, my mother-in-law shot me a sharp look, her tone dismissive. "What's the matter, Lauren? I hope you're not suddenly saying you don't want us to go together," she challenged. "I never agreed to this in the first place," I retorted, but she barely acknowledged my response. Instead, she turned to Terry, seeking his support. "You heard her. She just said no. But you always thought we would go together, right?" she coaxed him. Terry, seemingly caught in the middle, simply nodded and replied, "Yeah," affirming her presumption. Seizing on his agreement, my mother-in-law continued, overriding my objections. "It's normal for the husband's parents to accompany the couple on their honeymoon. Don't you have common sense? I hope you won't ruin this trip with any unpleasantness. We want to make good memories, right? I'll make sure to teach you some common sense this week before we leave. It's a special honeymoon after all." Feeling like the world was crumbling around me, my frustration boiled over. "This is a honeymoon, you know. Normally, it's just supposed to be the husband and wife," I insisted desperately, trying to make her understand the traditional privacy expected on such an occasion. However, my mother-in-law was unyielding. "The husband's parents joining the honeymoon is just common sense. I can't believe you don't want to be with us. I thought we were becoming a family, but it seems our ideas of common sense are different. You don't seem to like me and nothing seems to match. How sad, she lamented, her eyebrows furrowed in what appeared to be contrived disappointment. Her words dripped with insincerity, and I was certain she was manipulating the situation. Even Terry, without questioning the normalcy of the situation, sided with her based on her coaxing alone. "Lauren, what's wrong with you? They're my parents," he said, aligning himself with her narrative, leaving me to feel isolated and misunderstood in what was rapidly becoming a family versus individual conflict. "It's not possible for us all to go together on the honeymoon," I stated firmly. "We've already made reservations for just the two of us, and honestly, I've never heard of families joining a honeymoon." Terry's response was immediate and heated, his frustration boiling over. "I can't believe you dislike my parents so much, Lauren. That's enough for today," he snapped, disbelief clouding his features. As he spoke, a triumphant grin spread across my mother-in-law's face. It stung to see Terry consistently siding with his mother without considering my feelings, especially in such a personal matter. Before I could respond, I found myself being ushered towards the door. As it swung closed behind me, the last thing I saw was my mother-in-law's smug expression. Standing outside, I felt utterly powerless and wronged. Why was I being portrayed as the villain? Why did this special trip have to be overshadowed by such conflict? Overwhelmed by frustration and sadness, tears streamed down my face. A few hours later, a message from Terry pinged on my phone. "I want you to check if it's still possible for them to join the tour. If not, we'll cancel this trip and find one where all four of us can go. Please think rationally so we can sort this out properly." I was dumbfounded. His words implied that the fault lay with me, offering no room for apology or discussion. Terry had not contacted me since, likely upsetting himself. Time passed slowly, and soon the day we were supposed to depart for our honeymoon arrived. Despite my emotional turmoil, I had spent a month preparing for this trip and felt I couldn't just walk away. As I was getting ready, the intercom buzzed. It was Terry coming to pick me up. We hadn't seen each other since the argument, and I was unsure how to act around him. His arrival should have signaled that we were still going on the trip together, but oddly, he carried no luggage. Instead, he extended an envelope to me. It contained divorce papers. "After hurting my parents, you still planned to go on this trip, didn't you?" he accused. "I'm taking my whole family on this honeymoon." His words cut deep, leaving me reeling from the sudden, bitter end to what was supposed to be the happiest time of our lives. "If you don't like it, let's just get a divorce. My mom said it would be better that way," Terry said, shoving the divorce papers toward me. At that moment, his true nature was unmistakably clear. I had once believed that he would listen to my concerns and prioritize my feelings, thinking of him as a kind and considerate person. However, it turned out he rarely voiced his own opinions and consistently placed his family's wishes above mine. This was the real Terry. As this realization set in, my affection for him cooled significantly. Marrying him seemed more daunting than ever, and the thought of being part of a family with such a domineering mother-in-law felt utterly impossible. With a new resolve, I looked at the divorce papers he had thrust in front of me and said calmly, "Sure, but remember, I'm still single." "Single? What do you mean?" Terry exclaimed, taken aback by my response. "Weren't you paying attention? We talked about going on the honeymoon but delaying the official marriage registration until the day of the ceremony. I made sure to get your agreement on that, Terry. You didn't forget, did you? The marriage certificate is still in the drawer, and you even said, 'If you are fine with it, Lauren, then I'm fine too.' That's right, divorce or not, we're not even married yet. There's no problem with going on the honeymoon under my maiden name," I reminded him. Terry's face went through a whirlwind of emotions before he turned red and raised his voice in frustration. "Are you out of your mind to give up on marriage just like that? Just because of a honeymoon? Get a grip," I shot back, matching Terry's intensity with my firm voice. "This is me being rational. I've been so blinded by my desire to get married that I failed to see the reality of our situation. I can't be happy marrying someone who neither listens to their partner's opinions nor supports them. I'd rather stay single for life. Thanks for helping me see that haste does make waste. Hey, Lauren, let's calm down and start over, okay? Terry's voice cracked, his eyes welling up as he seemed on the verge of tears. But I was no longer moved by his pleas. I had made up my mind to break free from this cycle. Raising my voice, I told him, if you're so desperate for a family trip, go with your family of 3. But this time, you'll handle everything, from booking the tour to planning the itinerary. It's about time you experienced how challenging it is to manage all that on your own. If you think you can handle it, go ahead, you indecisive man. In a definitive gesture, I pulled out the marriage certificate from the drawer and tore it up right in front of him. His mouth fell open, stunned by my resolve. Do you understand how serious I am now? I refuse to have a future that's compromised. It's over between us. Why don't you go back to your beloved mommy and cry to her, you mama's boy? Leaving Terry utterly stunned, I slammed the front door shut. From his expression, he might very well go and cry to his mother. I could easily picture it happening, confirming my decision as the right one. After the fallout, I reached out to the tour company to cancel our reservations. Since it was a same-day cancellation, we were charged the full fee. I sent the bill to Terry for the entire amount. It seemed only fair since his actions had upended our plans. It felt like the right thing to do. Later, Terry blamed me for our failed marriage and even spread rumors among our friends and colleagues. However, it appeared that no sympathy was found in his corner. Among our relatives and co-workers, he started to be viewed as an unconventional mama's boy, a reputation further cemented by his recent actions, leading many to view him unfavorably. When I discussed the divorce with my parents, they were initially surprised but quickly came around. Marriage isn't the only source of happiness, Lauren. As long as you're happy, that's what matters, my mother reassured me. Her words were a balm to my spirit, and I couldn't have been more thankful. In a twist of fate, this whole ordeal reignited my passion for travel. I decided it would be a shame to let my vacation days go unused, so I embarked on my first solo trip. Traveling alone overseas was initially daunting, but turned out to be incredibly fulfilling. I explored historic cities I had always wanted to visit and found that being alone was surprisingly enjoyable. Emboldened by this adventure, I've fully embraced solo traveling. Whenever I have time off, I plan further trips. On my next break, I'm already plotting another overseas journey. This new chapter of my life is defined by freedom and discovery, a path where I am not constrained by anyone else's expectations or desires.
Wouldn't it be shameful to keep such a painting on the porch? My daughter-in-law, Nicole, stated firmly. Her words struck me to the core. She had sold my cherished painting, a drawing of gerberas by my late mother, at a flea market without my permission. That drawing was a memory of my mother, I protested, my voice filled with hurt. Nicole merely shrugged. I know, but I can't hang an amateur drawing. It's too shabby, she added dismissively. I gave her a sharp look. Do you think you should speak to me in such a tone, given that you're my daughter-in-law? I asked angrily. But she crossed her arms and replied coolly, I am the wife of your one and only son. Think about how we'll take care of you. Before walking out the door, my daughter-in-law gave me another careless look, her luxurious designer heels clicking on the floor. I was furious, but resigned to the fact that I would never get it back. Tomorrow, I was set to move to a new home, leaving them all behind, or so I thought. I am Valerie, a 50-year-old housewife. For years, I did all the housework while working part-time at a factory. I looked after my family, which includes my husband, my only son, and, as of 3 years ago, my daughter-in-law, Nicole. My mother, who raised me as a single mother, died 6 months ago. She left me a large sum of money from her life insurance policy. I took advantage of the opportunity to purchase a small new house and decided to divorce my husband, with whom I had a strained relationship. The day before I moved in, Nicole sold my mother's painting without my permission. When I told my husband we were splitting up, he simply said, do whatever you want. During our many years as a couple, our relationship had cooled. I believe neither of us did anything wrong, and that what happened was unavoidable. My son and his wife, who lived with us, were the ones who were against my leaving. Who will do the housework if you leave? Aren't you a housewife? My daughter-in-law asked accusingly. I am a civil servant like Travis, so I am not like you, who only works part-time, I responded. It's appalling to hear a mother throw her family out of the house. My son and his wife both continued to complain as I was packing. First and foremost, why are you buying a house now? Nicole asked, her tone disapproving. It's the money my mother left me, and it's up to me what I do with it, I explained. When the insurance money arrives, you should put it to good use for your family. A house where you'll live alone is a squandering of money, my daughter-in-law snapped. She's right. You should have shared grandmother's insurance money with us, my son agreed with her. Travis's wife was a brand-obsessed woman who never washes a single pair of underwear and is constantly taking dance, yoga, English conversation, and other classes. My son, who is at her beck and call, blames me all at the same time. This was enough for me. My friend Michelle, who lives near my new house, invited me over the night I moved in to join her for dinner. My husband is out drinking today too, so I thought it would be perfect, she remarked. Thank you very much. I still haven't unpacked anything, I replied. Michelle's house is magnificent. She and her husband both love dogs, so they built a house to accommodate a large dog. In fact, 3 Dobermans are currently resting quietly in the living room's corner. I told Michelle about Travis and Nicole while eating a hamburger she had prepared for me. What's the deal with your daughter-in-law? Michelle asked sympathetically. And I'm sorry, but your son is also pitiful. Travis used to be a stronger person, but now he's at the mercy of his wife, she added. I'm tired of it, I admitted. One of the large dogs approached me and nuzzled my feet as if to console me. It was Sasha, the female of the 3 Dobermans. Sasha is much gentler than my son, I uttered. All of our dogs are smart and good, Michelle said reassuringly. Michelle used to be a trainer because she's so good with dogs. Her 3 new dogs are large and scary in appearance, but are really gentle and extremely intelligent. They would never attack anyone, but they will bark at uninvited guests if Michelle instructs them to. I wish I had a dog as gentle as Sasha is, I continued. Why don't you get yourself one? I'll train it for you, Michelle suggested. Indeed, I am free to do whatever I want as of today in a new house. You begin a new life, isn't that right? My friend insisted, smiling. I thought so too. At the end of the month, my son called me. Nicole and I are moving to my parents' house next month, Travis said, sharing the news. I'd just gotten used to living alone and was starting to enjoy my independence. Your parents' house? Oh, you're moving to Nicole's parents' house? I inquired. No, it's my mother's house, he replied. My home? You already live at your father's house, I noted, puzzled, not entirely understanding what he meant. I talked with Nicole. After all, my parents' house is my mother's house, not my father's, and we decided to move to your house, Travis concluded. No, my house isn't big enough for the 3 of us, I objected firmly. I was not going to put up with Travis and Nicole bossing me around and making me do all of the housework. But one of the rooms does have a place to sleep. You can sleep in the living room corner, and we can use that space as our bedroom, my son suggested. Don't be ridiculous. What are you talking about? You want me to sleep in the living room corner? I could feel my face getting hot with rage. We're coming, even if you don't like it. I'll start by shipping you a couple of boxes, he insisted. I'm not going to accept them, I exclaimed indignantly. Well then, I'll think of something. Anyway, I'm coming, so please look after me, Travis said, and abruptly hung up the phone. I don't want this. I despise the idea of Travis and Nicole bossing me around and forcing me to do all the housework. That is something I will not allow to happen. The next day, Michelle and I went to a family restaurant. I'm sorry, but you have the worst son and daughter-in-law, Michelle remarked after hearing my story. As she sipped her latte, she continued, You must not accept it under any circumstances. You must politely say no. Well, since it is those 2, they might hire a moving company, I sighed. I don't know what to do to wash down my pitiful feelings. I took a sip of jasmine tea. Well, it is difficult to say no when the movers will come, Michelle continued. If we're not careful, we might get into trouble. We have to do something to make them not want to come to my house. I can't stand the way they're acting, I concluded. My friend raised an eyebrow. Well, we could ask my children for help, she suggested. What? Sasha and the dogs? I asked in surprise. Sasha, Shadow, and Rocky were Michelle's 3 kids, her 3 beloved Dobermans. My dogs will bark, growl, and act out to some extent on command. I could ask them to scare them away or something, Michelle offered. In fact, my son has been afraid of dogs since he was a child, I responded. It's difficult to live with a son and his wife who would sell their mother's mementos without permission. So let's come up with something, my friend added. I agree. Thank you very much, Michelle. I felt a little relieved as a result of our conversation. When I returned home, I discovered that my son and his wife were serious. 2 large cardboard boxes had been stacked in front of the front door. In one of them, there was a note. The note read, "These are Travis's and my possessions. We thought you would refuse the courier, so I brought them. We will move in next month, so please keep them in the house. Nicole." My shoulders slumped as I read the note attached to the cardboard box. I had no choice but to bring the box inside, and when I opened it, I discovered many of their personal belongings. Travis's imported watches and leather jackets, Nicole's designer bags, clothes, and shoes. They must have left behind valuable items I would not discard without permission. What a dirty move, I muttered to myself. How little they must think of me to sell off my mother's paintings or leave this luggage without my permission. Well, we could ask my children for help. Michelle's voice from the family restaurant echoed in my mind. I've occasionally accompanied Michelle on dog walks since I settled in after the move. She's a wonderful friend who invites me along for a change of scenery. It means a lot to me. Why don't you sell their belongings? Michelle had suggested. Nicole would sell them on her own, wouldn't she? Yes, I had replied, thinking of the memento my mother painted. By the way, I thought, why do my son and his wife want to live with me? They're both government employees and have money, so why don't they just live together? I sighed, remembering how they never liked doing housework, especially Nicole. She was always learning, going out to play, or watching fashion and makeup videos. So you've been doing all the housework by yourself? Michelle had asked me that day. Yes, my husband never did it. And Travis works overtime and travels a lot, and Nicole is the same way, I explained. I recalled a conversation between my son and his wife on the day I announced my departure from our home. If you leave the house, who will do the housework? Nicole had asked Travis. Well, you can, Travis replied casually. No, obviously not. I want your mother to do it, she had declared without shame. Michelle sighed in disgust when I mentioned this. It wasn't until a week later that I received several phone calls from Nicole. I finally answered and discussed, after she phoned dozens of times. Your house is quite small, right? She asked. Yes, that's what I said, I agreed. Travis said he saw you with 3 big dogs, and I wonder if 3 dogs like that could live in a small house? My sister-in-law inquired cautiously. It struck me then. Nicole is obviously terrified of dogs. There are people all over the world who are terrified of dogs, and Travis is one of them. Michelle must have been with me when Travis saw her, but he must have been completely distracted by the dogs. I told you it's a small house, I replied. If you're worried, why don't you come back and take a look? I will. I want to check the inside of the house. Nicole's voice unraveled a little. She decided that there was no dog in the house. In any case, I'll be there this Sunday at 10 a.m., Nicole said and hung up the phone. Well then, unexpectedly, now I can take my revenge, I thought. On Sunday, Travis and Nicole came to my house as planned. You really came, I said with a slight hint of mockery. I said I would come, Nicole replied. You know it's because you bought the house on a whim that we're in this messy situation, Travis added, clearly annoyed. That's really true. You should have stayed quiet and continued to do the housework like before, my daughter-in-law added, taking off her shoes and entering the house. Okay, that's it, I said to myself as I opened the living room door, gloating in my mind. Whoa! Ah! The next moment, my son and his wife screamed in unison. There were two Dobermans, Shadow and Rocky, sitting there. "What? Are you kidding me? Mother, this dog!" Travis stammered. "These are my dogs," I replied cheerfully. "Aren't they cute? Michelle, the dog trainer over there, found them for me." Michelle, who was sitting on the sofa, stood up and smiled at me. "They are so cute because they are well trained. Shadow, Rocky, how do you say hello to our guests?" she asked. The dogs barked at the same time. Nicole's face turned pale. "Oh no." She sat down with her head in her hands. "Is she that bad with dogs?" I asked, surprised. "Oh, they are so cute," Michelle said encouragingly. "Don't worry, Shadow, Rocky, play with them." At the sound of Michelle's voice, the two dogs ran over to Travis and Nicole, respectively. They raised their paws, wagging their tails as if to say, "Let's play." "Stop. Oh no, I'm scared," Nicole whimpered, shaking her head as she wriggled in fear. Shadow just invited her to play, but Nicole didn't understand. "I'm scared of dogs," she shouted, losing control, bursting into tears, snot running from her nose. "Oh dear, if you're going to live in my house, you'll have to get along with these kids too," I concluded. "Make them stop," my daughter-in-law wailed. This ruined the makeup she had studied on YouTube and was so proud of. Her mascara ran, and the glitter from her eyeshadow spread to her cheeks. Her tears and runny nose made the high-end foundation look soggy. With this face, she was going to take the train home. Meanwhile, Travis, who had been jostled by the much larger Rocky, fell on his backside and began to scoot away. "Hey, Mom, do something about it," he demanded. Rocky, thinking he was playing, happily jumped on him. "No, stop it. The dog is too big and scary," he pleaded. I suddenly looked at Travis's jeans and saw that the color of his crotch had darkened a bit. He was so afraid of the dog that he had peed himself. How pathetic. "Shadow, Rocky, come here." Michelle decided it was time to stop and called the dogs. Immediately, the two dogs left Travis and Nicole and returned to her. "Shadow, Rocky, down." With that one word, the dogs lay down at Michelle's feet. They really are smart kids. I turned to my son and his wife, the frustration that had been building for years finally boiling over. "Until now, even though I've been slaving away at my part-time job and housework, you've never helped me. Besides, when I said I was going to leave, you decided to live on your own. Do you think your mother is stupid?" I asked firmly, looking at my son. I spat out the words I had been holding back as my son and his wife stood up, crying. "I left home because I was fed up with you. I am not your housekeeper." Travis and Nicole lacked their usual air of bravado, a husband with a wet crotch and a wife whose makeup was a mess. They make the perfect couple. "You also sold off my precious things without my permission," I continued. "I will never forgive you for selling my mother's painting." I said it at once and looked at Shadow and Rocky, who were meekly lying face down, before turning my gaze back to my son and his wife. "This, a house with two dogs this big, is something we don't want," my son muttered. "That's right," Nicole added, her voice trembling. "We'll give up moving, so give me back the stuff we left behind the other day, then we'll go home. They're still in the boxes in the next room. Take it and get out of here." I pointed to the next room, and Travis and Nicole took a wide path around the dogs before opening the door. "Whoa! Ah!" They both screamed and fell on their butts. Another Doberman, Sasha, was sitting right next to the boxes in the room. "Mom!" Travis begged. "The boxes! Please get them!" I shook my head firmly. "I don't want to. You brought it yourself, so take it yourself." I peeked into the room and saw Sasha sitting there with a calm expression on her face. "I can't go near a dog like that," Nicole muttered, shrinking back. "Then give up your stuff," I said with a shrug. "You mean I should leave it?" "My bags and Travis's watches are in that box," she exclaimed indignantly. "You also got rid of my precious things without my permission, didn't you?" I retorted. "I didn't ask you to leave them behind. I'm telling you, take it with you." Nicole just glared at me for a moment, but then, perhaps remembering the dog's presence, lowered her eyes with a sigh. "Please, Mother, bring us the boxes," Travis begged. I crossed my arms. "You and Nicole have been making fun of me. You knew how important that painting she sold off was to me, but you didn't stop her." Travis looked away, almost shamefully. "Well, I'm sorry about that, but..." He started to apologize. At that moment, Michelle came to my side. "Sasha, How do we greet our guests? Immediately, Sasha sat down and barked loudly. No, stop it! Travis and Nicole both shouted, their nerves stretched thin. With his wet jeans and her face covered in smudged makeup, they bolted to the front door and got out of the house. After that, I sold all the personal belongings Travis and Nicole had left behind at a pawn shop. I discovered that their belongings were of considerable luxury, with Travis's watch having a surprisingly high value and Nicole's bag being of a particularly high class. The extravagance of these items left me in a state of dismay. Back at her house, Nicole ended up being responsible for all the household chores. My former husband did not like Nicole's housework. He constantly complained that the food was bad, the house was dirty, and the laundry was piled up. Nicole could no longer go to her lessons because of her housework, gained 10 kilograms due to the stress, and all of her frustrations seemed to be directed at Travis. Mom, I'm at my limit, Travis finally called me, his voice exhausted. Nicole finally started hitting me. She's been fighting with Dad all the time. I want a divorce. You chose your own wife, didn't you? You can take care of yourself. I refused to offer any sympathy. I was sick and tired of being involved with that couple. Meanwhile, I bought a female Shiba Inu and asked Michelle to train her. She's going to be a great dog. Michelle smiled as she patted the head of the puppy I named Kuma. Really, it's all thanks to you, I said with a sense of relief. I'm sorry for making the dogs play such an unpleasant role, I told my friend. That's okay, Michelle replied warmly. When I heard what you said, I was more upset than you were. But from now on, you and Kuma can live together peacefully. Yes, I nodded. From now on, I will enjoy my life and my time. With this determination in my heart, I gently picked up the puppy.